Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. All praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach Kodash, the Father, which is Yahweh, which means He is, or the existing one. Yahweh Shai, He is salvation, right? Which Bahasham means in the name, right? Of the Spirit Holy, or the Holy Spirit, Ruach Kodash, right? Right? We want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. Right? To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever. The hopeful elect, the elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners, so phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. To you sisters, you Akhwathiim, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence.
Today we're going to cancel hundreds, if not thousands of people in one fell swoop. We are canceling all of the people who are outraged at me on social media right now. Now, of course, there are always people outraged at me on social media, but there has been an unusually intense wave of it due to something I posted on X yesterday. I was reiterating something I said on the show earlier that day, which itself was a reiteration of something that I've said many times on the show. But here was the post, which has now been viewed 4 or 5 million times. Many of them angry views, a lot of angry viewing going on. And the post said this: America is not a nation built by immigrants. America was built by settlers. There's a difference. Settlers ventured out into the wilderness to build a civilization from scratch. The modern immigrant comes to a place that's already built. Settlers plant the trees. The modern immigrant comes to eat the fruits. If you cannot see the difference, I don't know how else to explain it. Now, as you can imagine, there are many angry responses to this, and I can't read them all, but let me give you a representative sample. I'll read 5 or 6 of these and give you the flavor of how people are responding. First one says, slaves shipped from Africa provided the white settlers, colonizers, free, bonded, lifelong slave labor, while white settler colonizers killed Native Americans. A civilization to be proud of? Another says, the Americas were already inhabited by tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of indigenous people long before colonizers arrived. Another says, you constantly dog whistle for white supremacy, yet you remain a confused bigot whose base consists of people who can't be bothered to read a history book, or any book for that matter. America wasn't built from scratch by settlers. It was taken from thriving indigenous civilizations built on the forced labor of enslaved people and expanded by waves of immigrants who continue to shape it today. The idea that settlers built civilization alone ignores the history of destruction, displacement, and stolen land. Indigenous nations had governments, trade networks, and advanced societies long before your ancestors, mostly thugs and fugitives, arrived. Another says, settlers, you mean colonizers who took land from indigenous people and built an economy on slavery, because that's the reality of how America was actually built. And the idea that immigrants today just eat the fruits without contributing is pure nonsense. Every generation of immigrants has worked, innovated, and strengthened the country, whether it was the Irish, Italians, Chinese, or today's diverse wave of newcomers. America was and still is built by immigrants. The only difference is that today's immigrants don't have to commit genocide to settle here. And then, actually, America was built by neither immigrants nor settlers. It was built by illegal invaders who came here without permission from the local population, committed genocide on them, and utilized enslaved free labor to build it. And then it wasn't a wilderness, and the settlers did not build anything from scratch. They invaded a continent that was already cultivated and slaughtered the people who cultivated it. This Matt Walsh douche is one of the biggest fascists around, and he's proud of it. And finally, Keith Olbermann chimes in and says, settlers wiped out the population that was here to make room for inbred mother effers like you. Now,
Now everybody was the people who responded were pretty much spot on. They in their brief intel of the history as far as what they know of, right? Because what they're forgetting is these people were Israelites that were here already. And they were definitely far more advanced than any goddamn Edomite, right? The only thing they didn't have is the gunpowder that China had and then created a gun with it, right? It's the only thing, right? Yeah, see, but what um, they don't tell you that these indigenous people here in the Americas are Israelites, right? This is the characteristics and traits, right? Tribes of Israel, historically what identified as the Aborigines of the Western Hemisphere, right? So that's ultimately what it is, man. This side of the globe, there were already people here, and those people that were already here were Israelites, right?
We're going to continue reading from the book. We've been reading from recently, last Friday, I think we read from it. It's called The 10 Tribes of Israel, Historically Identified with the Aborigines of the Western Hemisphere by Mrs. Simon. All right? You got some Bible verses here from Isaiah and Jeremiah. This is written in 1836. All right? One of the good things about these type of books is that all they do is source where they're getting the information from, right? So, they're all quoting primary sources and stuff, people's experience, encounters with the American Indians, what they observed. Get it? So we're going to continue where we left off last week. We're going to go to, let me see, about page 174. I appreciate you guys being here again. Thank you for taking the time to read with me and learn together. All right. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So it says here, characteristics. Hey, Temple the Lad, yeah, we definitely know Alex Haley got sued for making up, for plagiarizing a fictional book. Yeah. That's a fake story for sure. It says here, characteristics. Of the Choctaws, Bertram observes, they were a hardy, subtle, brave, intrepid, ingenious, and virtuous race. They erect a scaffold 20 feet high in a grave upon which they lay their dead, and after a sufficient time the bones are placed in a coffin fabricated of bones and splints and deposited in the bone house. The relations and a multitude follow with united voices and alternate hallelujahs and lamentations, all right? American Indians, yeah, saying hallelujah, yeah, hey, yeah, halal huwa, hallelujahs and lamentations when they're burying their dead. Bertram's Travels, page 514. The same writer adds, the women are seldom above 5 feet. They are well formed, have round features, fine dark eyes, and are modest, subtle, and affectionate. The men are full size, larger than the Europeans, taller. They are warlike, merciful, and haughty. They have had furious wars with the Spaniards, and they've had wars with the Spaniards. Let me know if you so-called Spaniards, right? Who are they talking about, really? About black on black crime, more and more war. Yeah, you already know. Let me know if the music is louder than my voice, guys. I want to make sure you guys can hear it a little bit. I just have some vibes going in the background. Welcome, thanks for joining us. Those are the other Confederate tribes are tall, finely formed, perfect figures. They countenance dignified, open, and placid. The eyes rather small, dark, and full of fire. the nose inclining to aquiline, the brow, forehead strike you with heroism, and their air and action exhibit magnanimity and independence. Their complexion is reddish brown. Their complexion again is what? Reddish brown. Reddish brown, copper-colored tribes of America. Reddish brown, huh? Not unlike an Ethiopian, huh? Breckenridge says, the government of Natchez is so strictly civilized that it seems impossible for them to act out of the common high road of virtue.
It is pretty bold for Keith Olbermann to call anyone else inbred, considering that he looks and sounds like a dimly sentient wart come to life. Olbermann's only achievement in life really is that he's been fired more than anyone else in the history of media. He enjoys being fired so much, in fact, that he got fired from ESPN and then bounced around to other media outlets and got fired by all of them, and then went back to ESPN and got fired a second time by them. So now he's an unemployed man in his 60s with no wife and no children, and when he dies, his bloodline will be terminated like his ESPN contracts. That's how committed this guy is to getting fired. But anyway, needless to say, that was mean, but it was also true. Needless to say, all of the outrage and accusations of racism and fascism have not dissuaded me or convinced me that I'm wrong about my initial point. They have achieved, if anything, the opposite result. So let me make a few points in response to all this. And these are all points I've made before, but I'll make them again and keep making them because defending America's history and its foundation has become, I think, one of our most important cultural fights. At least it is to me. So first, it is not true that all of this land in the Americas was already occupied. Yes, there were Indian tribes living here, but even so, most of the land was not occupied. The continental United States and Canada comprise about 7 million square miles, give or take. Nobody knows how many Indians lived here prior to first contact. The tribes had no written language. They had no sophisticated method of record keeping. They certainly weren't conducting any kind of census. But most estimates would say that there were maybe 6 or 7 million people.
Lies. They had written language. They were very sophisticated. They were the Israelites, right? And then his logic to this is, well, it wasn't all covered. It still belonged to someone else, right? It's like, you know, you're a so-called white man, right? You probably got at least 2 or 3 cars. Like I said, oh, hey, you don't drive this car. So I could just come over here and I discovered it. No, that would still be theft. I would still get arrested for car theft, right? You know, you cannot. Oh, you know what? You don't use this. You know, these are rich white people who have houses. You know, they got a house in wherever they live, and then they got another house in Aspen, like in a very nice, rich area. So I can just, you don't use your house in Aspen. You know, I ain't never been to Aspen. I ain't never lived in such a great lifestyle. Nice big house and mansions and forests and trees and nice, beautiful air instead of the pollution in the city. Why not just pop up over there? Because you don't use your house in Aspen. Right? You still say it's yours. Well, you know what, guy? It's a big gulf of land between you, your other house, and this house, so I could just come over here and just take it. You know what I mean? This is the rationale in your mind, right?
People living in North America, or specifically, especially in the continental United States and Canada, on the very high end, 13 to 18 million maybe. I doubt it was close to that high, but even if it was, we're talking about the population of Pennsylvania spread out over a continent. Now, you can go to Pennsylvania right now and find thousands of acres of unoccupied forest. With its population of 13 million people, you can still walk around Pennsylvania for days if you're in a forested region without seeing a single human being. So now imagine that population spread out over the entire continental US and Canada. Now you could travel for weeks and months and never see another human. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic, fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. That's why I'm so excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses, all available for free. That's right, for free. I personally recommend you sign up for Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. This brand new online course is unlike anything Hillsdale has produced before. Over the course of 6 documentary-style episodes, you'll hear from Hillsdale professors of history, politics, and economics as they look at Marx's life and writings, the misery and brutality of the Soviet Union, the atrocities of communist China, and the proliferation of cultural Marxism in America. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/Walsh to start. It's free. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/Walsh to start. hillsdale.edu/Walsh. The point is that the vast majority of this land was not occupied. Almost all of it was not occupied. Almost all of it was empty of human life. Nobody was living in it. Nobody was using it. This side of the world was mostly empty of human life. Now, does that mean that all of this land was unclaimed? No, not exactly. Most of it had been claimed by some native tribe or another. But what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at one example, okay? Let's use actual examples. The Cherokee, for instance. By the beginning of the 16th century, the Cherokee claimed an incredibly vast swath of land that would include modern-day West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, I think Georgia and Alabama too. So that's like 30 or 40,000 square miles. Okay, that was Cherokee land. There were only maybe 20 or 25,000 Cherokee people total. That's about 2 square miles of land per individual. That's like if half the population of Scranton, Pennsylvania claimed that it owned.
Right, but it still would be theirs. It would still be theirs. Still belong to someone else. Right? See, you like to be a Christian. Hey, somebody dropped their wallet. Hey, do the Christian thing. Because this guy's supposed to be a so-called Christian. You're supposed to give him back his wallet or whatever, right? I can't say, well, you know what? You walked another 10 feet from your wallet, so it's no longer yours. Right? No, you're supposed to, hey, sir, you dropped your wallet, you dropped your phone, or whatever hey, you left something right here. This is yours. Now, the guy comes and, hey, you know what? Here, you know what? Since you were nice here, I'll give you, $10 or $100 out of my wallet that you could have had it all, but you did the right thing and gave me back. So I gave you, and maybe that's what they'd have gave you a portion. But the whole thing about you is they didn't give you anything. You just took it all. You just raped, robbed, and murdered the indigenous people that were already here, which happens to be Israelites. Which this is going to be the ultimate the anger of the Most High coming upon you because you touched the children. You touched the apple of his eye, right?
7 entire American states. Now, it's absurd. So when we say that it was Cherokee land, all we mean is that a very small primitive tribe had driven out or killed whichever group was there before to announce that it owned an absurdly huge slice of land. A white settler could have been a 2-week journey away from the nearest Cherokee, and yet he was still on Cherokee land. And it was Cherokee land only because the Cherokee said so, and for no other reason. But in truth, it was...
And what are you saying America is? Because you conquered it, you took it over, and now you say so, so now it is, right? See the logic? You're the devil, man. So now everything's okay because you have it. And, well, it don't make it okay. The Lord required the things that is past, so you are going to get judged. So you're trying to escape your judgment by coming with a pompous, proud look at all these things. Right? You're going to get your judgment, man.
It was unoccupied wilderness. So what they don't emphasize in school is that white settlers were very often slaughtered by Indians for building a small cabin many, many miles from the nearest Indian village. And yet somehow we're supposed to see the white settlers as the bad guys in that scenario.
Yo, that's a lie.
Second, these settlers were not.
There's a lie. You know it's a lie. Even was it Columbus? These people were so nice and pleasant that they wouldn't steal a thing. It wouldn't steal a thing. These are nice people. And then after saying that these people are nice people and they would never steal a thing, he said, it's a great idea. These people will be great to enslave. And that's what they did, man. Right? You enslaved a very nice people. Matter of fact, let's go back to that. Well, let me see if he says some more stupid shit.
Not illegal invaders. They were not illegally taking possession of anything. The word illegal implies the existence of laws and government. And while the Indians had customs and rules within the tribes, and in some cases even a form of government, the only law that determined the boundaries of their land was the law of conquest. They owned the land that they owned because they were able to take it and defend it. That was the law that governed the entire hemisphere. Whatever you can take is yours.
How could you know that if you didn't speak the same language? How could you know that that's their law? So you're just making up shit, right? To fit your narrative, right?
The Reverend Mr. Cushman, in a discourse preached at Plymouth, New England in 1620, intended to contradict the slanders which were prevalent against the primitive inhabitants, observes, "The Indians are said to be the most cruel and treacherous people, like lions, but to us they have been like lambs, so kind and helpful and trusty, that a man may truly say, there be few Christians so sincere and kind." More loving, guys, more helpful, more trustworthy than a Christian. When they were
and that's the same thing today, because we bring forth the truth of Yahweh Bashem Shai, and they'll say that they believe in God, in the Bible, and they'll spill some things like what this guy is saying. That's not a sincere thing. When, especially the whole, see, we don't know God loves every goddamn body tip, man. He only loves the Israelites, and then he only dealing with the elect of the nation of Israel right now. So we spill. So, but these people spill this whole thing out with God loves everybody, but God loves everybody enough that you will turn around and go, ain't a big deal. They conquered, they took over people and killed them and took the land and claimed it for themselves. So we came in, conquered it, killed them, took the land for ourselves. That's the Christian way. That's what the Lord said to do. Right? Right? You might want to use the time. Well, God told them to do that to the Canaanites and this and that. Yeah. But the Lord, you're not God's people, first and foremost. And secondary, the Lord said for that people, or that land specifically, it was for a reason, right? Going back to the curse of Canaan, those were the people, right? And not to mention they were sinning. They were committing atrocities and sin in the land, and so the Lord wanted to move them out because that was His land, right? And not to mention they was not to do that to other people, right? Like you Edomites, the Lord said, "Hey, that's the land of Edom. Touch not their land. Lead them red people alone. Lead them Edomites alone. That's their land. That's the land of Moab. Leave them alone. That's their land." So all around about other tribes and other people, the Lord said, "Leave them alone." But these people, it's the land where I need you to drive them out because I don't want them in my land. Right? So not the same thing. Because now you go around the world and kill and conquer and kill people and say, hey, nothing should happen to me, right?
Not 6 able persons among us, and the Indians came daily to us by hundreds with their sakims or princes, and might in 1 hour have made dispatch of us, yet they never offered to us the least wrong in word or deed these many years. The history of the Brazilians, from the first incursions of the Spaniards to the years Hawa will, Hawa's will, Most High will. So they are artless, fearless, and live in the constant exercise of moral and Christian virtues. Though they know it not, some parts of the country are beautiful in the extreme. M.D. Lapotery, speaking of the Cherokees and other southern Indians, says, these Indians look upon the end of life to be living happily, and for this purpose their whole customs are calculated to prevent avarice, which they think embitters life. Nothing is a more severe reflection among them than to say that a man loves his own. To prevent the existence and propagation of such a vice, they, upon the death of an Indian, burn all that belonged to the deceased, that there might be no temptation for the parent to hoard up a superfluity of domestic conveniences for his children. They cultivate no more land than is necessary for their subsistence and hospitality to strangers. At the feast of expiation, they burn all that is left of last year's crops. All right?
Right. So prove to you that they cultivated land that was what necessary, right? And it wasn't greedy enough to still call steal and kill and do all these different things this guy is trying to say. Why would they need to go over and still and rape your wife and all this madness that you're lying and portraying, right? They don't even believe in keeping extra access things of life. They will burn it so that you don't get too greedy, right?
The concept of illegally taking something didn't really exist, because if you could take it, then it wasn't illegal, as long as you were taking it from an outside group. Now, they may have had laws or rules against stealing from somebody within your tribe, but if you're taking something from another tribe, as long as you can take it, it's yours by definition. This is how the Indian tribes operated. It's how they lived. It's how they determined who gets what and which land belongs to which tribe. The settlers entered into that fray, into the ongoing game of war and conquest. They didn't start it. They didn't invent it. They didn't introduce it. They entered into it. They became one party involved in that eternal struggle, just as they didn't invent or introduce slavery or rape or pillaging and so on. All of that was happening long before they arrived, and it was happening much more often and in a much more brutal form most of the time. Third, finally, to answer a question posed in one of the comments I just read, is our civilization one that we should be proud of, even in spite of its history of conquest? No, not in spite of that history. I'm proud of it in large part because of that history. It is one of the great triumphs of all time that our forefathers had to first conquer an ocean in order to then land on a giant mass of uncharted wilderness filled with untold dangers and wild beasts, and yes, primitive warring tribes, many of whom practiced human sacrifice and cannibalism, and who, if they captured you, would torture you for fun and rape your wife and children before killing you, maybe eating your internal organs and taking your family as their property. And yet, in the face of those unimaginable horrors, our forefathers and ancestors conquered this entire hemisphere and settled it and single-handedly dragged it out of the Stone Age and built from the wilderness the greatest civilization the world had ever known. Am I proud of that? Yes, I am. Now, the natives lived in the Americas for 20,000 years. This is something that the left and the people who hate this country like to bring up all the time. Well, they were here for so long. Yeah, they were here for a long time. What did they do in that time? During that time, they never figured out the wheel. They never figured out written language. Most of them progressed hardly at all over the course of 200 centuries. They were still eating each other and living in tents, many of them. The great tribes of Mesoamerica had advanced the most, and by that I mean they had caught up to the ancient Egyptians by the time that the conquistadors showed up. They were building pyramids at a time when Europeans were using the printing press. Then European settlers arrived here, and in less than 3 centuries, they had established a nation. In another 70 or so years, that nation would stretch across the entire continent from one ocean to another. In another 50 years, they'd be digging a giant trench through the earth to physically connect one ocean to the other. At the same time, they would be building vehicles that can fly through the air. In another few decades, they'd be walking on the surface of the moon. Okay, these settlers took a wilderness sparsely inhabited by hostile Stone Age natives, and in a matter of a few centuries built the greatest, most advanced, most globally dominant nation the world has ever known. Am I proud of that? Oh yes, I am very proud of that. And I will always be proud of that. And I will never apologize for it. Period. And that's why anyone who is not proud of it and who says that we should somehow be ashamed of these monumental human achievements is today canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks.
Hospitality to strangers. At the Feast of Expiation, they burn all that is left of last year's crops. All right? Feast of Expiation, Feast of Tabernacles, all that. We've read already that in this book and in others, what they did, right? Says Colden says, history cannot give an instance of a Christian king observing a treaty so strictly or for so long a period as these barbarians, as they are called, have done. So, you see how he contradicts himself there. He's saying these people are so good, they're so trustworthy, they're so loyal, yet you want to call them barbarians, huh? Oh, man. All right, Colden, come on, Colden. Hey, Hawa. Hey, aloha, Hawa. Clavijero says, the Mexicans had as the other tribes a scrupulous regard for truth. Bertram says, of the Creek nation, joy, contentment, love, and friendship without guilt or affectation seem inherent in them or predominates in their vital principle, for it leaves them but with their breath. Wow. Bertram had lost his way among the woods. He saw an Indian at his door beckoning to him to approach and come in. Of himself and horse, the best care was taken. When he wished to go, the Indian led him on the right track. He adds, they are gentle.
Right. So this devil said, we took a thing and built it right on the corner of things far away from the Indians, and basically they came and raped, robbed, and murdered us. But this is a true account, and said, hey, the Indian was at his door, he was lost. He said, hey, look, did like this, and pointed him in the right direction. He didn't kill him. He didn't do it. These devils are lying, man. Right?
It's honest, liberal,
they're honest,
hospitable to strangers, affectionate to their wives, their children, and relations, frugal, persevering, charitable, forbearing. All right? It must be recollected this testimony is given of Indians in their unsophisticated state, before the corrupting influence of the lower class of European immigrants had reached them, all right? After a while, these people, peaceful people, had to, deal with the hijacks and become violent, stand up for themselves at some point. Or even get...
This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. It says, now the serpent, right, was more subtle than any beast of the field. And then subtle meaning slick, right, or sly, crafty counsel, right? And that's what they take. They take a lot of crafty counsel, right, in wickedness, right? Going into this is the you know, because the serpent is really a man. This is talking about the attributes of the man, of this man, right? Because snakes don't speak, right? But you could call a man if, you know, when you do a certain thing, you call him, oh, that dude, he's a snake. Don't believe him. He, you know, right? You'll warn somebody, and this is kind of like that warning, saying this man's a snake. You know, he's diabolical, right? And his thing, he's really crafty and prudent in his diabolicalness, right? And more than any beast of the field. So everybody, you know, all these people in the world, the self-proclaimed so-called white man is the one who uses things, you know, like with the dude subtly just saying, oh, well, you know, speaking as no one else knows history, right? And he said it in such a subtle way, things that maybe some people will actually start going, well, you know what? I guess that's could be, you know, if you're just battling and people are just fighting and you come over and you just take it over because you're the bigger, stronger person. Hey, well, you know what? Then, you know what? That's life. And then we have so many of our people, so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian people that give over to that ideology. But their ideology clashes with what they say to what they do, right? You know, like I said, I gave the example, if they had a house somewhere else and I come and live in their house and say, yeah, you know what? This is no longer yours because you live far away. There's so much land between you and California. You know, you got your house in California, or like I live in Arizona, and you have a lot of people who come out here during the winter. We call them snowbirds. So because you're a snowbird and you go to Colorado or whatever and this and that during the summer months and all the things when it's nice and seasonable, when it's warm and good weather in Colorado, but in the winter you come out to Arizona because it's not as cold. You don't have to deal with the snow like that. But when you get there, I'm there in your house, and I have to say, well, hey, you know what? There's at least 2,500 miles away from between you and Colorado. You know what I'm saying? So I guess this is my house. So you can't come here now, no more, right? And so that clashes with what he's actually saying, right? And then he's saying, but did they make that law or that rule with you, right? Even if that was so, did you sit down and have a conversation with them and say, hey, I want in on this? You know, can I participate in your conquering each other and then declaring who's the winner? Or was that a thing between those people because they were the same people, and it was a common understanding between common folks? Even if that was the case, right? You can't just come in somewhere and then just make up your own. That's what you're doing. You're coming in and making up your own thing, right? But that's what it is. The beast of the field, which Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, had made, and he said unto the woman, yea, had the power, the Most High, said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And see, that's kind of like what this dude is doing. Same type of thing. So, in the same aspect, if they're warring and they're just warring against each other, shouldn't we be able to just come in and war and take over and not be considered evil? I mean, they were doing it. They were just primitive, so-called people that will. They didn't have the will. Well, did that make it right to steal somebody's stuff? No matter how primitive I am, if we're happy, but then you show up and we're sad, then you disrupted the so-called harmony of life, or the ecosystem, or the goddamn, what is it called? People like to believe in Yeah, you messing up the, what is it called, the star, you messing up the alignment of the stars or something, right? But really, you're touching the apple of the Most High's eye. These are the children of Israel, right? Yeah. So what this is John 10:10. The thief cometh not but to steal, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. And that's ultimately what the self-proclaimed so-called white man is today. All right, that's what he was about at that particular time. That's what he's about today, right? He's not about restoring you, right? He's not here to restore you. He's not here to give you an apology. And that's basically what he's saying. That's his sentiments. He's not here to feel sorry for what his ancestors did. That's what they're about. That's it. I am come, right? Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, real name Yahushai, right? Son of the Father, Yahweh, which means he's the existing one, right? I am come that they might have life, and that they might have life. I come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly, right? And that's ultimately what we're gonna have. You know, the America had plenty of very vast amounts of vegetation and things and nourishment, but because this devil has wiped it out and did all these different things, the Lord has better than this place, man. Right? This place is polluted at this point, and it will destroy you if you get wrapped up into the philosophies and the way this guy is thinking. He wants you just let's forget about it. But you know, there's no forgetting about it, because the scriptures tell you this right here. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober. If you got a sober mind and mentality, you can't forget about all the atrocities that the self-proclaimed so-called white man did. Right? You can't just throw that under the rug and go, well, you know what? Hey, it's a beautiful place now. Well, it's not. Right? And even if it was, right, you still can't let that go. Right? Right? The things of the past are required according to the Bible, right? Which he say he believes in, right? So as a sober mind or sober mentality, be sober, be vigilant, man. You gotta pay attention, man. You gotta watch. You gotta be circumspect. Somebody get to talking greasy like that, man. This guy don't mean you well, right? Right? Your adversary, and ultimately this guy is your enemy, man. He's your adversary. He's the enemy. He's the devil, right? Or Satan, right? Satan means adversary, right? This guy is Satan, the devil, right? The false accuser, and that's ultimately what he's doing. He's the accuser of the brethren, and he's saying the brothers was so-called all these violent people that would eat him and all these other different things. Well, that was you, Esau. You're the one who ate people, man. You're the one who put people into slavery. You're the one who raped, robbed, and murdered. Then you're putting and then even was calling them like primitive. That comes from you. You're the caveman. You're the original caveman, and you're the one who were originally primitive when you went into the Caucasus Mountains. When you were in Mount Seir, you had a little bit of sense. You had a little bit of something, but once the Lord banished you, right, for that 1,000 years and put the dust upon you, the confusion, you were very primitive. You were making noise as a donkey, man, grazing about the mellows, man. You're not that smart, man, and that's why you try to elevate yourself, right? So it says the devil, right, which is our the false accuser of the brethren, as a roaring lion walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And that's ultimately what you've been doing, right? You came to this land to devour it. Then, of course, as a very young country, you had more wars than any country combined. being such a young country, and you're technically still in war, right? And you have not been about peace, right? All this love and admiration that you want for you have not given to anyone on the world, in the planet, not even your own people, right? Right? The elites about to leave you in the proverbial dust, right? They're about to leave you in what is it, with the fourth, what is it called, the fourth industrial um generation, right? And leave you behind while you're all puffed up. The AIs and these foreigners finna come over and take your jobs. Yeah, continuing on. It says, 1 Peter 5:9, whom resist steadfast in faith, right? So it's our job to resist, right? We got to steadfast in our faith, right? Knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world, and we're scattered around the world, right? In these conditions that our enemies have put us in, right? The ghettos, the vadios, the reservations, and whatever they call them, wherever they're at, right? Right, which is basically ghettos, right? Where the Jews are at, right? Right, with the Israelites, right? Right. So this is Psalms 58:3. The wicked are estranged from the womb; they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. The NLT says these wicked people, right? Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, are born sinners, right? Hey, it's what it is, man. Because they sin, because ultimately sin is transgressing the law, but they also sinning because there are laws that's not necessarily the law, statute, commandments. You just have the laws of nature, right? The earth has air and trees and birds and things, certain things that's required of nature and of human life, right? That's the reason why the Lord said, if matter of fact, let's get that, because if a man stealeth a man and he selleth them and he be found in his hands, hey, that man shall surely be put to death. So we're gonna get that, even though I'm quoting it, I'm gonna get that after this. It says these wicked people are born sinners, even from birth they lie and go their own way. Man, they're going about doing their own thing, man. Right? Because they hey, they about what? To steal, kill, and destroy. They don't know nothing else, man. Right? Let's go into this real quick. Estranged.
Strong's H2114.
Zur. Yeah, to be strange, to be a stranger, right? And that's basically how they came, right? Because when you go back into Genesis, it says he became a vagabond, right? Right. I might have to go get that too. And so when you're a vagabond, right, it means a traveler. Everywhere you go, you're a stranger. But everywhere you go, being a stranger, to become estranged, stranger, another stranger, foreigner, an enemy, right? See, ultimately, that's what he has been, of lawsome, loathsome of breath. Hey, right? Strange woman, prostitute, whore. Oh yeah, right. Because America, Babylon the Great, is what the whore, the great whore, right? Which sitteth upon the scarlet colored beast, which is a whore, right? To be a stranger, to be one's alienated, right? And that's what's ultimately going to happen, man. The Lord said you should be chased out of the earth, right? You're going to get alienated, right? Yeah, so this is Exodus chapter 21, verse 16. And he that stilleth a man, right? And that's what they did. They went and kidnapped a man from Europe, right? Because we ruled Europe for over 1,000 years, right? And there's plenty of proof that those people were swarthy, right? Taunty people in Europe, right? And it's proof that when they came to America, they were swarthy and taunty people that were here in the Americas, right? Different shades of brown, right? Being the Israelites, right? Of Europe. And then they went to the west coast of Africa. And then those people on the west coast of Africa were, were also swarthy and taunty, right? And they were the Israelites, right? And stilleth the man and selleth him, right? On the transatlantic slave trade, right? Triangle slave trade. They sold us, right? The so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, whether you understand it or not. Yeah, they sold you Indians into slavery. They sold you so-called Mexicans into slavery, you Puerto Ricans, right? I think the only ones that really know that kind of understand more out of the Spanish-speaking tribes is Cuba, right? A lot of them know, right? But some of them they get simple too, right? But you were enslaved, and slaves got dropped off into that land, right? Back and forth, right? Who got sold, right? Who selleth the man, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death, right? And the second coming of our Lord Yahushua, which that's what he said. He that's why he said it. He said, I come that they may have it what more abundantly. We're gonna have more, and we're gonna rule the entire world and the universe, man. Right? So we're definitely on the second coming of our Lord Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. We will be found in this devil's hand, right? And so he has to be put to death, right? And that's ultimately what they're trying to do. They're trying not to feel the so-called shame. They don't have white guilt, right? But you don't gotta feel ashamed. You don't need white guilt. Thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Holy Bible, you will be punished, right? We don't gotta do a damn thing. The Most High is gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? And when he gives us the ability and the power to do as he commanded, then that's when we're going to do something. When he commands us to do something, but no, there will be nothing done otherwise, right? And you're gonna know the difference. We ain't gonna just be some niggas standing on the corner with a Bible anymore. We're not gonna be some niggas on the corner selling drugs anymore. Yeah, the Lord gonna give us the spiritual power, and you're gonna know it, man. Our statue's gonna change. The glow of our skin is gonna change. The way we can move and fly, and you're gonna know, man. You're gonna be dealing with a God and not a man, right? Just as our Lord is coming, He's not gonna meet thee as a man, but as a God, man, as an angelic being. Yeah, so Deuteronomy 28:68, and Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way, wherefore I spake unto thee, thus shall see it. And talking to the Israelites, right? This is the curses, right? In the beginning, right? Just go up to 1 real quick, real quick. Like, right? All them curses and all them blessings. It says, yeah. It says, yeah. And it shall come to pass, if thus shall hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh thy power. And who's he the power of? The nation of Israel, not the whole world, only the nation of Israel. To the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe and to do all his what commandments who he gave to the Israelites, right? This is Deuteronomy, 2nd book of the law, which I commanded thee this day, that commanded thee this day, that Yahweh Basham, Yahweh Shai Basham Rakakodash, thy power will set thee on high above all nations of the earth, which that's where we're going to go back to that higher estate, right? As we're meant to be. But as of now, right? The devil, the Satan, which goes about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, right? What did he do, right? And seeking whom he may devour. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, right? Egypt, we walked into Egypt, we walked out of Egypt, right? Even though the what they call UFOs or UAPs, which we call the identified flying objects, which are the chariots, the vehicles of Israel, or the chariots of the Most High, right? Even though it was there, the Lord didn't beam us up and take us out of it. He caused the Suez Canal to open, which is called the Red Sea, and we walked through, right? By the way whereof I spake unto thee, right? Just like I tell you, speaking the truth, right? Thus shall see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold, right? We never went back to Europe, never went back to the west coast of Africa, and we haven't been back into the land of Israel, right? And there ye shall be sold, right? And you take a man, you steal it him, and sell it him, and he be found in your hand, you should be put to death, surely be put to death. You got to get put to death. And there ye shall be sold unto your what? Enemies, right? That's what it said, right? Your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, right? Slave men, and no man shall buy thee, which means redeem you. And that's what our Lord, he's not coming back to meet you as a man. Yeah, so it says Genesis chapter 3, verse 14, and Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, said unto the serpent, because thus has done this, thus art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field, right? Which is why you got to get Obadiah 1 and 18, because out of all the beasts in the field, you go into the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, Edom is the only nation that will not get mercy, right? Right. So above all, you got to be cursed over all the beasts of the field. You got to get the worst curse there is, right? Of the beast of the field upon thy and upon thy belly shall thus go, right? See, and basically going into them being what? A vagabond, right? You're gonna go about doing things, doing all sorts of atrocities on the earth, right? You're gonna be a vagabond. You're just gonna be a traveler, and when you travel, right? It said estranged meaning also what? It said stranger, but also it said enemy, right? You're gonna be an enemy of many different people, right? Should be estranged, right? She's gonna go forth and be enemies. It says, go upon thy belly, thus go, and thus, right? Confusion, right? Which we were in Babel, which is confusion, Babylon, right? The daughter of Babylon, confusion, Babel, right? The dust, confusion, thus shall eat all the days of thy life, right? Constantly in war and all these different things that they do, right? Let's see. Going into the belly, right? Being, like I said, like a vagabond.
Strong's H1512. Gajon. Gajon.
Gajon. Gajon, right? Gajon, belly of a reptile's belly. Um, abdomen, abdomen. Yeah. Sorts. Okay. Let's go into this. Got a root word.
Strong's H1518. Giach. Giach.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
form just below that, Goach. Goach.
Yeah. Goa, right? Basically, like you know what I'm saying, like a vagabond, place traveler, to burst forth, right? How are they going? They're going to burst forth, to draw forth, to bring forth, right? To break forth, right? When you're going somewhere, right? To come forth, right? Take, to bring forth, to draw up, right? Basically how they're traveling, right? Strangers traveling different places, right? Becoming people's enemies, right? Yeah. So this is Genesis chapter 4, verse 11, and reincarnation or regeneration is biblical according to the Bible, and you being reincarnated, that same spirit that was in the serpent was reincarnated into Cain, and you as Cain killed your brother Abel, which those spirits came back as Jacob and Esau, you being Esau or the descendant of Esau being Edom, and we being the descendants of Jacob, which is Israel, or we're known as the Israelites, right? As descendants, you still is out to kill your brother. So this is going into that same thing, right? Because you that taketh the man and stealeth him and selleth him, and he be found in your hand, right? Right, which we went into what cargo slave ships back into Egypt. This again with ships, right? So why you have the Egyptian pyramid on the back of your dollar bill, right? It's not by coincidence. It's by the design of Yahweh Bashem Al Washai. Because what made you do that? That's a telltale sign of who you are. And then you got the Novos Ordo Seclorum, which we know that's what you're trying to bring in, that new world order, right? Right, and now what things are going, what digital, right? Everything's digital, right? They want to get you your digital wallet. They want you to get your biometrics, right? So, I mean, so it says, and now are thus cursed from the earth, which had opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood, right? Being Cain. But now you're that same spirit went into Esau, and Esau saying, as soon as my father's is his mourning him is gone because his father died, He had plans to kill Jacob, but he didn't kill Jacob. But he still harbored those feelings for killing Jacob, which those feelings are in your descendants, which are the Edomites, right? To this very day, right? Because you were warring in the womb of Rebekah's womb. You were fighting in Rebekah's womb, and nothing's changed, right? And the earth has received thy brother's blood from thy hand, right? You caught what? Red-handed, right? Right? It says, now you are cursed and banished from the, it says ground, but we know right here it said earth. So I'm gonna read it that way. Now you are cursed and banished from the earth. That's what's gonna happen. The Lord said you should be chased out of the earth, right? I believe that's in Job, right? Which has swallowed your brother's blood. And hey, you never showed us any love, man. Even when we came out of Egypt, we was like, hey, you know that we're from Jacob. Hey, yeah, you're Esau. Your father was our father's brother. You can't let us pass through the land. No, I said you came out with swords, right? All we wanted to do was pass through the land. And we said we will pay for the water we drink. We'll pay for it. All right? When thus tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield her strength, right? And so that's what's happening now, right? Towards the end of the world, we're able to see who you really are, because crops is not growing the way that it used to be even 20 years ago, 40 years ago, right? And then you got to think as time go on, it's diminished and diminished to where it's at now, man. Corn crops don't grow up that high anymore. Grapes grow small. Even back in the 80s, when I was a kid in the 80s, man, grapes were pretty good size still. Decent size, right? Grapefruits came out, man, pretty big, man. You had some pretty big grapefruits. Now, if they get that, they're throwing some chemical on it. They're doing some type of thing where you see these articles where you see this freaking pumpkin that's the size of a car, because they put some type of chemical in it. It ain't just a natural thing where this pumpkin grew as big, but then all the other pumpkins, all this other grows like this, real small. Like, come on, bro, you did something to that, right? That ain't natural, right? If that's the case, you could do the thing and feed the world, right? But that ain't what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring in, the Novos Ordo Seclorium, right? You got to bring that all in. That's the reason why we're found in your hand, right? 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 This being what the land of America, which is spiritually what Sodom and Egypt, man. Babylon the Great, Babel, the place of freaking confusion, right? It says then, thus till the ground. Yep. When we keep on going, a fugitive, right? And that's ultimately what you are. You're a fugitive from justice, right? Because the Lord hasn't judged you yet. So we're gonna come to, we're coming to the time where you have taken a man and you grabbed the man and you sold him, and that man's gonna be found in your hand. So you think you're just gonna be a fugitive and a vagabond, right? You're just gonna keep on traveling forever, right? Going from place to place, being what? A stranger, so to speak, being an enemy of everybody, and nothing's ever going to happen to you. But that's not going to be the case. Vagabond shall thus be in the earth, right? So now what? Everybody's taking up a taunting proverb against you, man. They're narrowly looking upon you, man. Right? No longer will the ground yield good crops, see, for you, no matter how hard you work, right? No matter if you take your science and try to manipulate it, the things ain't yielding what it's supposed to, right? What it would. For now, are you, yeah, from now on, from now on, you will be homeless, right? Hey, and that's what you, ultimately, that's what you have been, right? Because you went from Mount Seir to the Caucasus, over to whatever place you conquered and took over, the Americas, Canada, America, South America, uh, South Africa. You know, they conquered Hong Kong for a little bit, but I guess they had to give it back to Hong Kong, right? Australia, this you're home. You don't have a home. You're just a vagabond. You're everywhere. You're traveling. You're everywhere. You're everywhere in the earth, but where you're not in Mount Seir like you're supposed to be, right? You won't have a home. Wandering the earth, right? And that's where you at. You're scattered all around the earth, causing havoc, man. And come back here. This is Genesis 4 and 12. Look up the word definition of vagabond.
Strong's H 5110. Nude. Nude.
Nude, to shake, to wave, wander, move, to and fro. What's it? Flutter, show grief. Yeah, well, that ain't what you're doing. You ain't definitely showing no grief. Have compassion on. Oh yeah, that's what you want somebody to do, right? Have compassion for the devil, to move, to go to and fro, wander aimlessly, right? Wait, here you go. Take flight, flutter, waves, shake, right? And it tells you about how is this the guy that did what? Shake kingdoms, right? Right? Yes, this is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 16. That they see thee, they that see thee shall narrowly, right? Hey, the whole world is starting to despise you, man. They shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man, right? Because really it goes into what you being a serpent like man, right? And that's what you are, right? You the you know, Satan, right? Our adversary, the adversary of the entire world, but definitely the adversary of the nation of Israel, right? Saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? So when it talks, yeah, you went as a vagabond traveling everywhere, and you shook kingdoms, you shook the world, right? At one point in time, right? That made the world as a wilderness and destroyed cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners, right? Because basically that's what it is, man. America's like the youngest country that there is, and the fewest population, but yet you have the greatest amount of imprisoned people, right? It says everyone there will stare at you and ask, can this be the one who shook the earth? Right? Could this be the one? Right? Because when all done and done, all that proud, what was it? The proud talk, the proud boys, all that stuff is finna. Hey, it's about to be thrown out the window. It's gotta be, and it's gonna be thrown out the window, right? Because that's the reason why the scriptures talk about the one that will not take that gold or that silver. Because pretty soon all that pomp, that proud, all that pride is gonna go out the window, and you're gonna be looking at, well, look, we got gold, we got silver, we can give you, we can help you, we can do this, we can do all these different things, and it's not gonna be regarded, man. At that point, it ain't about no gold, it ain't about no silver. It's gonna be about fulfilling the will of Yahweh Bashem Shai, and they ain't gonna regard your gold or your silver. They're just gonna shoot the missiles. So they're gonna say, "Is this the man that was talking all proud and this and that? Now I got gold, I got silver. What do you? Let's not have World War III." Bagging out, right? What happened to all that? Right? This the one that shook the earth and made kingdoms of the world to tremble, man. That made everybody afraid. You drop down Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Fat Boy and Little Man, made the whole world. Which, like I said, we understand that there were more than just those 5 cities, man, that they dropped bombs on. There were a lot more cities that they dropped different types of bombs in Japan and even in different places, man. And it put the whole earth in fear around that time. Was the World War II, right? And no one wanted to make war with this devil, right? It says, is this the one who destroyed the world and made it into a wilderness, a wasteland? Right? Yeah, man. Because the earth is not yielding its growth anymore. It's not doing anything what it used to be under the rule and the power, or the like the scripture says, it talks about under the stewardship, right, which means landlord, right, under the landlordship of the Edomites. Because you're not the owner of this planet. Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is the owner of this planet. You're just supposed to be a landlord. See, but you took being a landlord into being you. This belongs to you. You actually own this planet. No, the Lord made the earth for our sake, right? And is this the king who demolished the greatest city, right? Which really, they demolished the greatest people, right? Which the Israelites, right? They came against us, put us in the ghettos, the vadios, the reservations, messed us all up, but that's okay. And had no mercy on his prisoners, right? So that's where we're at. He didn't have no mercy on us, right? Yeah, so this is 2nd Esdras chapter 6, verse 8. And he said unto me, right, which is the angel, speaking unto Esdras, telling him, the plans of the Most High, and plans to put his people back in the stewardship place of the world, right, to manage the world the way it's meant to be, and to give ownership to Yahweh Shai, which is an Israelite, and by default, as us being Israelites, we are going to be joint heirs, starting with the elect of Yahweh Bashem Shai, will be joint heirs with his son Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, which that's Jesus meaning earth pig, right? Jees meaning earth, and sus meaning pig, right? So that's definitely not the name of the Lord's son. It's Yahweh Shai. It means he is he's salvation, right? And that's what he's coming to bring, salvation to the nation of Israel, right? Not the whole world, right? And that's why it tells you like this. And he said unto me, from Abraham to Isaac, which Isaac is Abraham's son, not the whole world. When Jacob and Esau, which are his sons, were born, of him, Jacob his son, held fast the heel of Esau. And so Esau, being a vagabond, right, going about the earth, seeking whom he may devour, right, destroying and taking minerals and different things, and basically making the world into a wilderness. How do you stop somebody from traveling, keep on traveling, going, hey, you got to grab him by his leg, you grab him by his heel. You ain't finna travel no more, right? And basically finna grab him and trip him up. Because what do Jacob mean? Jacob, technically in the Hebrew, is Yaquab, and Yaquab means to supplant, right? We're going to get him into a place and supplant him, right? And that's what the Lord's going to do, get him up to his highest heights, all his pride and all these different things, and going to allow that to implode on himself, right? Because now Russia, even your mother, right, which is England, and all your friends, right, those who are so-called Confederate with you, and your enemies are going to shoot missiles at you to destroy this place, right? To remove the confusion out of the earth, right? To bring in righteousness. For Esau, right, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, the vagabond throughout the earth, who's a stranger, who brings what? Violence, right? Who's an enemy to the world, right? Esau's the end of the world, right? So the age, right? His rulership is going to be the end of Esau's rulership. And Jacob, Yaquab, which he wrestled with an angel, and that angel said, you're no longer Yaquab, you're Yasha Allah, right? He Prince Power, or he Prince of God, right? He Prince of Yahweh, right? Right? Is the beginning of it that followeth, right? It says the hand of a man betwixt the heel, right? So if I grab in your heel with my hand, and between your hand and my heel, I mean your my hand and your heel, yeah, it's like you. That's it, right? Between my hand and your heel, it's not much separating. There's no big separation. So it's saying that that kingdom is gonna follow right after it, right? There's not gonna be like a pause situation, right? It's not gonna be a great pause. It's gonna come right in and start ruling. And the hand of a man is betwixt the heel and the hand, other questions Esdras asks, thus not, right? So basically, Esdras was talking about the end of the world. And that's what the angel said. Hey, look, this the plans of the Most High, which the Most High is telling you the end from the beginning. So that's the ultimate, power, right? Tell you the end from the beginning and cause it to happen. And cause it to be so. So with all that, I'm going to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. The elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever. The hopeful elect, the elect, Shalom to the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom to your sisters, you Akhwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. And a Baba Ball and Kwam Yasharala.